So how am I going to build a silver cell? Well, people have been telling me for years I need to build one. And being a YouTuber and someone who films pretty much everything I do, I want to be able to see the silver growing in there, okay? I want to be able to film it. I want to make time-lapse videos of the silver crystals growing. I think that would be really cool. Well, hello, Scrappers. Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. So what do we got going on today? Well, up here on the bench, we've got all the silver I have recovered from Johnny's electronic scrap already. I mean, there's going to be more, but for now, this is what I've got. And we'll weigh it up here in a minute and show you how much we've got here. But what I wanted to talk about today was how ugly the bars are that I poured and how to improve them. I wanted to re-pour these bars and make them prettier. Now, they don't look too bad on the surface, but I mean, if you turn them over, they look like Swiss cheese. And some research has shown me what the problem is. Basically, silver will absorb oxygen in the molten state. It has quite an affinity for oxygen when it's molten. And it'll absorb a lot of oxygen into it, and then when it solidifies, that oxygen comes back out of solution, and it causes all these bubbles. And, well, it just makes the bars ugly, in my opinion. I figured out how to eliminate that problem by keeping a reducing atmosphere in the crucible when I'm melting the silver. And I can pour bars that don't have the Swiss cheese effect now. So I thought, well, great. I'll just re-pour these bars and make them really pretty for Johnny. But then I got the thought, maybe I should purify this stuff before I re-pour the bars, because this all came from cement silver. And it looks pretty good. It's nice and shiny. Looks like pretty good silver, even though the bars are ugly. But I'll bet it's probably not more than 99.5 at the most % pure silver. So I thought, well, why don't I build a silver cell? People have been telling me for years I need to build a silver cell. And purify this stuff up to 3 or 4 nines fine. And then pour new bars out of it. Okay. So that's where I'm going to go in this video. Probably might turn into a series of videos. I want to build a silver cell, and I want to reprocess Johnny's silver here. And then we'll pour some really good looking bars. All right, let's figure out how much silver we've got here that we need to refine and re-pour. $1,643 grams, 1.643 kilos. That's a lot of silver. So, especially at today's prices. So, let's figure out how we're going to do it. So, how am I going to build a silver cell? Well, people have been telling me for years I need to build one. And they always point to Street Tips and say, look at his cell design. It's simple. It works great. It's inexpensive. And they're right. It is. And I was at the point of building one like his, but I had reservations. And I think the fatal flaw of Street Tips' silver cell is you can't see what's going on inside unless you lift the cover up. And being a YouTuber and someone who films pretty much everything I do, I want to be able to see the silver growing in there, okay? I want to be able to film it. I want to make time-lapse videos of the silver crystals growing. I think that would be really cool. So I started looking around for designs of glass silver cells where you can actually film what's going on inside. And I found a few. There are a few out there. And they're actually pretty easy to build too. I'll put some links down in the video description to some of the videos I found. I was particularly enamored with one by a fellow named Anthony Thomas. He's a jeweler. He does a lot of metal refining. He does it all. I mean, he's the complete package. He refines and recovers all kinds of metals. But I like the design of his silver cell. Let me insert a picture from one of his videos of what his silver cell looks like. It's all made of glass, perfectly transparent. He's got some great videos of the crystals growing And it's like, that's what I want to be able to do. I want to make pure silver, and I want to make videos of the crystals growing. I think that's going to be cool. So I started looking around trying to find the parts I needed to build a cell like his, and well, and the anode bottle is pretty much unobtainium, unfortunately. But he started selling the parts to make cells like his. All I bought was the anode bottles because I can get everything else easy enough. But that's a great thing he's doing, is selling those anode bottles out there. So let me start putting together a cell, and then we'll get it up and running and see if we can purify Johnny's silver here. I should have enough silver here to make plenty of electrolyte for the cell, and then purify the rest of it. And I've got some of my own silver too. I could use that for making the electrolyte so we don't shortchange Johnny. So yeah, let's start building the silver cell and see if we can get some cool video of silver crystals growing. So I have acquired all the parts I need to build a silver cell like Anthony Thomas's. Beaker, big beaker, easy enough to find. I'll put links to all this stuff down in the video description in case you want to build one too, because this is going to be really cool to be able to watch the crystals grow. Most of this stuff is pretty easy to source. Power supply, actually already had that. Big 5-liter beaker, some stainless steel sheet to make the cathode, Dacron vacuum bag to make the filters. This is the hard part to find. This is a 1-liter aspirator bottle, and this is the really hard part to find. Fortunately, you can get this from Anthony Thomas. You can buy a whole kit from him. He'll sell you the whole kit, everything you need. I just bought the aspirator bottle because I knew I could get the other pieces easy enough, and I already had a power supply. So, but you can buy the whole kit from him if you like, or you can just buy the hard-to-find piece. Maybe you'll get lucky and find it yourself. So the way this is going to work is we're going to put Dacron filter on the lower port of the aspirator bottle here. We're going to make a cathode out of this stainless steel sheet, and unfortunately I bought one that was too small, so I'm going to have to get creative with how I make this work. I'm going to find a way to hang the aspirator bottle inside the 5-liter beaker. We're going to fill the beaker up to about halfway to the top of the lower port with electrolyte, and then we'll put some power to it. We'll need an anode for in here, and we'll talk a little bit more about how I'm going to do this when we get a little further along. And then we'll hook the power supply up to it, and we should start seeing crystals growing immediately. And I should be able to get really good video and time lapses of it too, which I'm very excited about as a YouTuber. So, okay, we got to start building this. Plus, I got to make a lot of electrolyte so that we can fill the cell up. So, let's get to work. All right, so first thing I need to figure out is how I'm going to hang the anode bottle inside of the big 5-liter beaker, down about here. Well, Anthony Thomas has gone through several iterations of his silver cell, and his latest one is super simple. So I don't see any reason not to just blatantly copy him. So basically what we need is a piece of wood wide enough to go across the top of the beaker and sit on it. So I will cut a piece that will do that, cut it off about here. And then what he does is he makes a U-shaped, actually more like deeper U-shape cut in the wood, and the bottle will slide in. It's wider at the top so it can't fall through, and then he has sort of a wire bail that holds it in place. So I don't see any reason to try and improve on that. That seems to work. So let me cut the wood to length, and then we'll cut a notch out of it and come up with some sort of way to hold the bottle in place then. And then we should have that part of the equation solved. All right, I got a piece of wood cut to length. That's going to work. That'll hang the bottle. Now what I need to do is put a notch in the wood that will allow the bottle to slip in but not fall through. Well, there's a lip on top of this ground glass joint right here. So if the notch is just the right size, the bottle will hang but not fall through. So let me make a notch this size right about in the middle of the wood here. Oops. I'll take this in the workshop, cut it out, and we'll see how well it works. All right, got a notch in it. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. So what I need to do is come up with some sort of arrangement to prevent the bottle from slipping out of the notch. And I think what Anthony Thomas does is he has a screw on each side and just a piece of wire that he runs taut across it, although I'm not too clear on that. I'll come up with something similar or something that'll work anyway. So let's see here how low this bottle hangs in here now. So it looks like 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. Looks like we're going to need about 2,500 milliliters of electrolyte. So that's how much electrolyte we're going to have to make. We'll probably need to make some extra to top it off. And I think we can just continue topping it off with distilled water as the liquid evaporates down. The cell's going to run warm, and it's going to cause evaporation. So, but we're going to need at least 2,500, maybe 3,000 milliliters of electrolyte to start with to get the cell going. So I'll have to find enough silver to do that. We want about 100 grams of silver per liter of electrolyte. So it's about 300 grams. That's a fair amount of silver. That's almost 10 ounces. So, okay. Got my work cut out for me there. I need to make some electrolyte. In the meantime, I'm going to figure out how to wire the bottle in so it can't slip out. And we've got to install the Dacron filter. And I still have to make the cathode, which is going to be a bit of a problem because the piece of stainless steel sheet I bought was too small. But I'm a clever boy. I'll bet I can figure something out to make it work. Let's tackle that next, I think. All right, it's time to make the cathode for the cell. And the way Anthony Thomas does it is he cuts a circle, mostly a circle, out of a piece of stainless steel sheet and then has a thin tab coming up and out of the beaker. Well, my sheet is too short for that. If I cut a circle out of it down here and bend the tab up, it's only going to reach up to about here. But I think I can make it work anyway, and I'll show you how. First, I need to figure out how big to cut the circle out. Well, here's a 3-liter beaker. It fits comfortably inside the 5-liter beaker, so I'm thinking that's probably the size I need to make right there. I got a grease pencil here. Let me mark it out. Okay, so I'll cut that out. And what I want to leave is I want to leave a tab of metal coming up. Now I'm going to make it fairly wide. It's not going to reach the top, but what I can do is I can cut it like so. And cut it like so, and then bend it so that it will be high enough to reach the top. So I think that's what I'm going to do so I don't have to go buy a bigger piece of steel. So I'll just do like that. I'll show you as I cut it. Let me go get my tin snips and we'll get to cutting on it. This stuff's tougher than I thought. And my tin snips are duller than I thought. Let me find my other pair of tin snips. I think they're sharper. Yeah, these tin snips are a little sharper. I think I may have bought somewhat thicker steel than Anthony Thomas uses because he doesn't really say what gauge it is. I just sort of guessed, but this will work. Just got to make sure I don't cut myself and bleed all over the bench here. This metal's going to be sharp. I may round it off on my bench grinder just so I don't have to worry too much about cutting myself in the future. So let's see, I want to cut this out like so. I imagine crystals will tend to grow from the sharpest points too, so rounding them off may even out the crystal growth a little bit better. There, okay. Hope I'm on camera. Hope I'm in frame. Not really paying attention to the camera as I cut this thing out. Right. Cut down this way. Alright, so that's basically what Anthony Thomas does right there, but mine is not going to be tall enough to stick up out of the beaker, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this tab down the center, almost all the way to the top, and then bend it so it will be sticking up enough. This is a tricky cut. It may take me a while. Back when it's done. Okay, there we are. I hope you can see what I've done there. I split that wide tab down the center and then folded it up at the top. And let's take a look. Look at that. That's just about perfect. I've got an attachment point up here for the power supply. Comes right up out of the beaker. Perfect. And then we've got the big cathode on the bottle for the crystals to grow on. Absolutely perfect. Just like what Anthony Thomas does, only I made it work with a shorter piece of steel. Okay, let me get some sort of bail to hold the anode bottle in the piece of wood so it can't slip through. And then we'll put the Dacron filter on. Then we'll be ready to put some electrolyte in this thing and fire it up. Okay, since I have all this scrap stainless steel left, I decided to cut out a piece like so to hold the bottle in place. I won't have to worry about it corroding like if I use wire. I don't have any stainless steel wire. So I just need to drill a hole in either side of it and put a couple of screws in, and that should allow me to hang the bottle in there. If I need to take the bottle out, I just take one screw out, rotate it like that, and the bottle can come out. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me get some holes in this and find some screws, and we'll pretty much have this thing built except for getting the Dacron filter on. Alright, let's see how well this works. Now I did deepen the notch a little bit just so I could put screws in out here without worrying about splitting the wood. I think it's going to work fine. This other screw in. Now I probably should be using stainless steel screws here, but I couldn't find any in my toolbox. So I'll probably have to pick some up the next time I go to the hardware store for something. And I imagine I'll notice them corroding, and that will remind me. Let's see how this works. There we go. That looks pretty darn good. Just like it's supposed to, I think. Alright, so next I need to Dacron filter on there. Let's do that. Well, now it's time to get Dacron filter on this. We're going to put a filter on this lower port of the bottle. And what you need is you need a Dacron cloth filter for like a shop vac. And there's a 2-pack of them here. Got it really cheap. And there should be enough material here to make dozens of filters because we just need a little circle slightly bigger than this port. Also going to need some chemically resistant zip ties. Anthony Thomas says if you use ordinary zip ties, they're only going to last maybe 1 or 2 runs of the cell before they fail. Chemically resistant ones are what you need. Again, there's going to be links to all this stuff in the video description down below. So check that out if you want to build one of your own. Anyway, let me get one of these filters out and we'll cut out enough material to make a filter and get it on here. Okay, let's cut a piece off of one of these filters. I said I got 2 of them. Put this back in the bag to keep it clean. So yeah, I should be able to make a lot of filters from these 2 Dacron bags. So what I need is a piece just big enough to go over this lower opening here. So yeah, should be able to get a lot of them out of this. Cut this. Very sharp scissors would help for this, I think. So basically what I want to do is get this on here taut. And put one of these chemically resistant zip ties around it. So let's get the zip tie ready here. And try and get this on here just as taut as I can. Put a second one on. There, that's pretty tight. It's like a drum. I think that's what we want. Cut the excess off. And there, I believe, we have the completed silver cell. These little Dacron fibers off of it. There we are. The complete cell. Ready to go. Almost. Almost. I need to make up some electrolyte for it, and I need to make up an anode bar to go in there. Now let me talk a little bit about the anode bars, okay? So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll cornflake this stuff. They'll melt it down, they'll pour it into water, they'll have a bunch of little cornflakey-like pieces, and they'll use those in their anode basket, and they'll pour a bar to press down on this stuff in the anode basket, and that's how they make their electrical connection. Anthony Thomas started out doing that. But he learned from his own viewer feedback that a better way, a more reliable way and quicker way to make the cell work is to just pour some long skinny bars of the silver you want to purify. You know, they have to be able to fit through the mouth of the anode basket up here, but they can be as long as you want to make them. And then just process the silver that way. Don't bother with cornflaking it. Don't bother with filling the anode basket with the cornflaked pieces and trying to get a good electrical connection off to every single one of them, because, you know, as they start dissolving in there, they get smaller and they get further apart, and then they don't all make good electrical contact with each other, and you wind up with a lot of silver left in the bottom of your anode basket that never does anything. He said you just pour yourself a long skinny bar, set it in there, put your anode connection to the bar, and just let it slowly dissolve and fall in, and that's your anode right there. Just make bars out of the silver you want to purify. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Let me show you what I got towards that end. So this is a little mold I bought recently, and you can make bars out of all kinds of different lengths and widths. And you can make a long bar like this, or you can put this in here and make a skinnier bar, which I'm going to need a skinnier bar, because I think this will just fit through the neck of the anode bottle up there. But, you know, you can make them shorter, you can make them longer, you can make them really skinny by putting these spacers in. I don't think I need really skinny, and I don't think I need them shorter. I think what I need is just as long as I can get it, and just wide enough to fit through the hole in the top of the anode bottle here. And then that's going to be the anode. And it doesn't have to make electrical contact with anything else inside the anode bottle except for the electrolyte. And that long skinny bar can just slowly get eaten away, and clean crystals can grow down here, and whatever crap is in the silver will accumulate in the anode jar as slimes. So that's the way I'm planning on doing this. So to get this thing up and running, I need to make about 3 liters of electrolyte with about 100 grams of silver per liter. And I need to make some anode bars. So I need to fire up my foundry furnace to do that and dissolve a bunch of silver in nitric acid over here in the fume hood. So I think that's what we're going to do next in the next video. So the first video is going to be building the cell. Second video is going to be getting it up and running, and hopefully we'll see some crystal growth in there before the end of the next video. So subscribe and stay tuned to see this silver cell up and running and see how well it's going to work. So thanks for watching. If you found this video at all interesting, educational, informative, inspirational, or whatever, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Go check out Anthony Thomas's YouTube too, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching this one. Bye.